So let's go ahead and look at this particular problem that I've asked you to look at when we're looking at cats, dogs, and fish and trying to fill out the Venn diagram. We kind of already decided how the circles should overlap. And if you guys remember from last class or even the class before, they don't always overlap like this, right? Think about the even number, prime number, odd number problem. Didn't they just kind of like go in like linearly? They didn't all three overlap like that, but like I think two at a time overlapped or something. But because this last statement is there, we do know that all three people do own all three cats, dogs, and fish. Anybody in here own one of each, cat, dog, or fish, out of curiosity? No? I own a dog and a fish. That's about all I do. So I'm over here in dogs and fish. I'm right here. I just own a dog. I own one dog and two fish. How about you guys? Just cats? You have two cats and one dog, so that means that Deshay would be here, right? Where anybody else have a different situation? Emily? You only have a dog? So only a dog. Emily is out here somewhere, right? Remember that on the SOL, it's going to ask you to click on the respective part of the Venn diagram that corresponds. So remember, what's highlighted right now is Emily, and that's dogs only. And then if it were Deshay is a cat dog person, right? So that was here. So you have to make sure that you know where to click on the respective part of the Venn diagram here. But let's keep filling in. So we already went ahead and kind of took care of these two pieces of information. It's almost as if we're working from the bottom up. Would you agree? Kind of inside out of the Venn diagram. So 15 people owned fish and dogs. So we're looking at where the fish and dogs overlap. Hopefully you can realize that a 10 should go here, because a sum of 10 and 5 would be 15. Okay? How about cats and dogs? How many people only owned cats and dogs? What do you think about that answer? What'd you get? 15 is correct. I agree with that. So 15 would be only cats and dogs, but if they owned a total cats and dogs, we'd have 15 and 5 to be 20. Excellent. All right, so now we're looking at cats only, dogs only, fish only, etc. Let's keep kind of working our way back up. So far, we have 20 people in my fish circle. So we're looking at the next, kind of working our way up here. We're looking at this information. 37 people owned fish, which means that how many people only owned fish? 17. Very good. So a 17 would go here. Using that same strategy, how many people only own dogs, Daniela? If we have 58 people owned dogs, and I have 30 people in here, how many more people would need to own dogs to get to 58? 28, very good. And then how many people only owned cats, Lucia? 23, I agree. Now, this Venn diagram is not fully complete because we still haven't dealt with the first piece of information that was given. It says 150 customers were surveyed. How many people were surveyed right now? What would I do to answer that question? Add them all. I would add all of these numbers. Would you agree? Add them all up. And then if I wanted to figure out how many were in a what we call a none category, it's going to unhighlight here. In other words, they don't own any pets at all. We usually put that right on the outside of the Venn diagram. So if we added all of these up, it looks to me like it would be 103, which means if 103 people owned a cat, dog, or a fish, how many people owned neither of them? 47. And so you really do need to include that to kind of complete your Venn diagram, okay? So make sure you add that little piece there. Good enough? So a little bit different than what we did last week where I gave you the Venn diagram and asked you questions. This time I'm going to give you the answers to the questions and have you fill in the Venn diagram. Okay, so it's kind of like a little bit backwards. So on our test on logic or a quiz or anything like that, you can see that this would be a question or something similar I would probably ask you. Okay. All right, here are the answers to your homework. I did grade problem 34 as extra credit on the homework. But if you would, I'm going to pause the recording for a minute. I just want you to check your answers to see how well you did, and we'll go over whatever questions you guys have. So I'm getting a new microphone soon. It's on order. But for now, we're just going to have to microphone from across the room because it has to be plugged in. Oh well. So who wants to read number 2? What do you think? A linear pair of angles is complementary is Q. 4 plus 3 equals 7 is P. This is not Q. And this is supposed to be an arrow, by the way. Okay? It should be connected. What does that arrow mean? What is the arrow? What's it connected? If then. So we're going to start with the word if. If what? Well, we're going to use the not Q. So if the linear pair of angles is not complementary, then what? 4 plus 3 equals 7. Okay? We're just literally writing it in words. That's it. How about number 3? Who wants to read what that one would say? Josh, tell me what it is. And 4 plus 3 equals 7. Very good. I mean, this is really kind of basic, don't you think? And how about the last one? This is supposed to be a double arrow here. That didn't come out very pretty, but you get the idea. The if and only if is what this is called a biconditional statement, and that if and only if is supposed to go in the middle. So I'll start it out for you. Okay? 4 plus 3 does not equal 7. That's the negation. When I negate an algebraic equality equation, you put not equals to it. Okay? So 4 plus 3 does not equal 7. If and only if what? A linear pair of angles is complementary. Very good. All right, so this is not really that hard. Okay? What we're going to get to later on is looking at the truth values of these things. And how can I write something called a biconditional? And when is that a valid thing to do? For today and for right now, I just want you to know what the symbols mean. Okay? We're okay with the symbols. Let's try it a different way where I give you the sentences, and this time I want us, and these guys all move, okay? And I want us to come and pick the symbols for each of these 3 things, okay? So one at a time, I'm going to have some people come up, and I want you to just kind of use your symbols, use your P's, use your nots, what have you, and I want us to put them with their respective spots. I'm going to stop the recording, and I want you guys to come put the things up here. Actually, the way that Sharia had started it, because well, I'll come back and look at yours after Eleodoro. She's right. Perfectly good. I agree. Let's look at what Eleodoro does here. And then I'm going to come back and talk to you about number 2 and how she had originally done it. And that actually would have been okay too, believe it or not. All right, so Jose does not have a driver's license and he's not 16. Okay, good so far. We're missing one connective. We're missing an and in there. You see the and? Which one is that symbol? There you go, making yourself some room. Good. And again, it could have been just a union set, which is just the upside down U or that upside down V. That looks very good. Perfect. Okay, well. So my question to you is, Sharia was kind of starting something else. She was saying, what about this one for this? Would that be okay? We're going to look at biconditionals a little bit more at the beginning of next class, or maybe towards the end of this class, depending on if we have time. But actually, either of those are okay. Because of the double-barred arrow, the order in which you do it doesn't really matter. Okay? But I like that you did it the way it was kind of red. That's perfect. Looks real good. You guys can do this. You're just putting symbols in. So there is one more symbol that you need to know, and it's actually on your, what am I going to call it? What am I going to call these things? Flip charts, I guess. I've been calling them all year, right? So if you'll get one of these out for me, and yours out, and I'd like us to fill in the whole top here, where it says symbols to know, things like that. We don't know what inverse, converse, contrapositive is yet, but we do know some symbol notation. There's one symbol, if you look at the chart at the bottom, what's the symbol that we don't know yet? Or I haven't showed you yet. The 3 dots. So we do need to add those in. So let me tell you what the 3 dots mean. I should probably put that back on the other slide here. So the last one that you'll need is these 3 dots. And it stands for, or its translation is the word therefore. Okay? It's used kind of at the end or conclusion of a sentence. So you probably need to add that. But if you would, on that flip chart, just go ahead and put the symbols in there. The symbols are there. Write the words they correspond to. So the first symbol, what does it mean? Okay. The double-barred, the double-sided arrow, what does it mean, etc. So again, just filling in right here. Okay, just that little chart right above where the index cards are going to be taped. So we have those symbols, pretty basic, pretty easy. But what I'd like us to do is, you can leave this out if you want. We're going to identify something called the inverse, converse, and the contrapositive. And these are three things that are absolutely always on the SQL, so we need to really define them and know what they are. So on your sheet, we're going to use an example in just a minute, but on your sheet that you have, if you would please, you have a symbol here that says given a statement, if P, then Q. If you would please tell me what the symbol is for the hypothesis. Which letter is it? Fill it in. It's P. And how about the conclusion? Q. Okay? And then it says symbolic notation or symbol notation. Okay, so we're kind of looking in this section here. So the hypothesis we know is P, the conclusion is Q, and then the symbol for if then, did we just learn that the symbol is just this arrow thing here, right here? Just fill those in on your first sentence. Okay? Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have us fill in the symbolic notation for inverse, converse, and contrapositive. We're going to leave the blank here in just a minute. So we're going to come over here to symbolic notation for each of these. Because I actually think the symbolic notation is a little bit easier than all the big work. So I'm going to do the symbols first. The inverse of a statement, you have to start with a conditional statement, okay? So you have to have some sort of if-then statement. The inverse is simply when you keep the same order, but you negate both of them. Okay? So you keep the same order, but you just put a little negation symbol in front of each. So underneath inverse, I want you to put the symbol notation that goes with it. Okay, good. The symbolic notation, the symbol notation for the converse. We kind of already talked about converse because we talked about the converse with parallel lines. If two lines are parallel and they're cut by a transversal, then alternate interior angles are congruent. What's the converse of that? If alternate interior angles are congruent, then the lines are parallel. The converse is just simply when you switch the P and the Q. You switch the hypothesis and the conclusion. Okay? You just switch in the hypothesis and conclusion. The contrapositive, symbolically, is when you do switching and negating. Okay? So you're going to switch and negate for the contrapositive. Honestly, there's not a whole lot we can do other than memorize this. So sometimes I like to think about a way to help me memorize. What are some, we call them mnemonics, things you can kind of, little tricks to help you remember things? In a converse, this is what I always think. What's happening in the converse? In a conversation, you ever talk to somebody and they twist your words around? Makes you mad? They twist what you meant to say? You didn't really say that, but they twisted your words? So converse, you're switching it. Okay, they're switching your words. You're switching your P and your Q. Can anyone think of something for a contrapositive, maybe? What would help us remember that, Josh? What would help us remember contrapositive? Can you think of anything? It's a big, long word. Contrapositive. How many syllables is that? Contrapositive. What's happening with the contrapositive? You're switching it and negating it. Julie, anyone help them out?
So basically, ConvInvContrap is kind of like the opposite of positive. And then also have your little
Okay, you're contrasting each other. I like that. Yeah. word. Aren't we doing the most stuff here? Aren't we flipping and negating? So that to me is the way to remember that. The inverse, keep the same order, but you negate. So what I want us to do is I want us to write, given this P and Q, given this sentence here, I want you to write out in words the converse, inverse, and contrapositive of each of these things. Okay? So I'm going to pause for a minute. I want you to write them, and then we'll look at your sentences in a minute. Okay? So I agree. If it rains, then the car will get wet. It's false because there are counter examples that could prove it false. A counter example in this case could be a parking garage, or it could be the garage in your house. Okay? Just because it's raining outside doesn't necessarily mean that the car is going to get wet. Okay? So I want you to write the sentence, and I want you to write the words, the converse, inverse, and contrapositive. This has a false truth value, and we have a counter example. The counter example would be a garage. All right. Let's write the word. Let's start. What would the converse of this statement say? If what? If it, no. No. Converse. If the car gets wet, I did not have order this time, didn't I? If the car gets wet, then what? It rains. That is the converse of this statement. So we know the original had a false truth value. What's the truth value of that? Is there a counter example to prove otherwise? Car wash, sure. Okay? So this is a false truth value as well. Go ahead and write the inverse and contrapositive as well. Write them out in sentences. So, Deshay, what's the inverse? If? Hey, Deshay, wow. Go ahead. Good. If it does not rain, then the car will not get wet. All right. True or false? False. Okay. Contrapositive. Who wants to go for that one? How about you, Jason? Want to try it for us? If the car is not wet, then it didn't rain. Good. And how about that one? That one's also false. Now, here's something that's interesting. In this particular case, all of the truth values were false, because we could come up with a counterexample to prove them all false. That's not always going to happen, okay? What will happen is that the truth value of the original and the contrapositive will be the same. That's something I'd write down, okay? So you want to either highlight them or something, but these will always be the same. The truth value for the original statement and its contrapositive should always be the same. Okay? So that's important. You will see that again. Matter of fact, you're going to see that on your NYP project that's going to come up soon. Okay? So Josh, make sure you write that down. The truth value to the original and the contrapositive will always be the same. They have the same truth value at the end. This is a special case because they're all the same, but that doesn't always happen. Okay? So let's look at a scenario. Maybe we can come up with one. Okay? So the contrapositive has the same truth value as the original statement. So let's look at this particular statement. If you have brown hair, then you are a brunette. Is that true? That's true. Okay, that's what the definition of brunette is. Do you agree? Okay. I agree. What's the contrapositive? First of all, we know just based on what I just have up here that the contrapositive is going to have a true truth value. What is the contrapositive? Nope. Contrapositive. Be careful. If you are not a brunette, then you don't have brown hair. So if you are not a brunette, then you do not have brown hair. I agree with that. And what is that truth value? That's also true. Okay, good. One last thing that I want to introduce here is something called the biconditional. Okay? Biconditionals mean that something can be written as a biconditional if, let me write this one down. So something can be written as a biconditional. What's the biconditional again? If and only if. Okay? Has a double arrow thing. This is the last news flash of the day. You should write this in your notes too. Something can be written as a biconditional if the original statement and its converse are both true. Okay? Oftentimes definitions are this way. So you can write something as a biconditional if a statement and its converse are both true. So let's go back to our brunette scenario. Okay? If you have brown hair, then you are a brunette. You told me that was true, right? True. What's the converse of this statement? What would it be read as?
You're a brunette, then you have brown hair.
Good. If you are a brunette, then you have brown hair. True or false? Now, I'm surprised that someone didn't say, well, you could have black hair. Did you say that? Just quietly? So, black, brown, brownish, blackish. I mean, I don't know. Is the true definition of a brunette brown or black hair? I don't really know. I'm just asking. I'm not saying I know these things. I'm asking you a question. Brown or black hair?
She said, I'm like,
I think she's
yeah,
right.
but I looked it up and it didn't say that. And she's like, I love this. And I'm like,
I think it is. Emma, you would agree with that? Brown or black hair? I think that is. So is the converse here a true statement based on what we just said?
No.
No, I think that would be a false statement. Huh? So if we change this to be if you have brown or black hair, you have brown or black hair, then you are a brunette. If you are a brunette, then you have black or brown hair. Now are they both true statements? Now they are. Okay. So now we have two true statements. Let's write them as a biconditional. We can only write them as a biconditional if both of them are true. So how could I say this? Remember where biconditional goes. Where does the if and only if go in the sentence? In the middle. That's right. Go ahead, Julie. If and only if goes in the middle. So I'm going to write if and only if here. Now I'm going to write something before it and something after it. So how about you are a brunette if and only if you have black or brown hair. So you can take something called a conditional statement, look at its truth value. If its converse has the same truth value, which they both have to be true, then you can write them as a biconditional statement, which would also be true. Okay? What if I gave you the biconditional? Could you separate it into two conditional statements? Don't write this one down, but let's just try it. Okay? Let's try one and see if this is a true statement. Lines are parallel if and only if alternate interior angles are congruent. Don't write this one down, but first of all decide, is it a biconditional? Yes or no? What makes it a biconditional? The if and only if. Okay? So I want us to divide this into two statements. One, an original and its converse. So we're going to write two sentences based on that. Okay? The first one. See, what would the first one be? If what? If lines are parallel, then good. I agree. That's one correct true conditional statement. What would the other one be? If alternate interior angles are congruent, then the lines are parallel. Okay? So you should be able to go in either direction. Given these two true statements, can you write the biconditional? Okay? Or if you get the biconditional, can you write the two? All right, so what I've given you, if you go ahead and look at the pages here, you may go ahead and circle 7, 8, 9, and 10 of the first statement. We are not going to do truth tables until the end of the year because they're not on your SOL. Morning, sunshine. 7, 8, 9, and 10. Go ahead and circle those. Don't cross them out because you'll come back to them. We'll do them eventually. Okay? We're just not going to do them until the end. So you're just going to worry about problems 1 through 6 here. And then if you go ahead and turn on the back, again, you can go ahead and cross out 5, 6, 7, and 8, or circle them. We'll come back to them. You're not going to do the truth tables. You're just going to worry about 1 through 4. Okay? You are going to look at number 9 at the bottom there, the Venn diagram. Okay? But you can work the truth tables. You can skip. Keep going. If you look at the back here, you are going to write the converse, inverse, contrapositive for 13, 14, and 15. And I do want you to do actually that whole page, 13 through 19. Okay? We'll look at the biconditional stuff more next class because you have the next 30 minutes to work on these. You'll turn it in when you get done. Okay? And then I'm actually going to stop you at the last 15, well, in about 20 minutes I'll stop and we'll talk about your MYP and MYP project, okay?
I'm just asking. I don't like complete like all of it.
I don't know yet. I'll have to see how well you do and how fast you work. So hopefully the answer is you'll be finished and we won't have to worry about it. So let's see. If you look at question number 6, I was noticing a couple of people with a little error. And I just wanted to kind of show you the notation that would be correct here. It says vertical angles are typically congruent. So vertical angles are congruent. What is that symbol? The V? What is that symbol? And or? Which one? Or. Good. Or. And then we have an algebraic statement that we have to negate. And it's an inequality. It says the original is 2 plus 8 is greater than 10. But we are asked to negate that because it says not R. So if I'm trying to negate this, I see some of you that have just a slash through that. Well, maybe. But really the correct algebra would be if it's not greater than, because doesn't this mean greater than? The negation of that would be less than or equal to. Okay? Because it says or, and if you look at the symbols for number 6, there's a V, and V means or. Right? You're looking at your notes. So just make sure you realize that the negation of greater than is less than or equal to. Okay? So you can kind of make sure you put that in there to be mathematically accurate. All right? Any other questions you guys are running into on the first page front or back right now? All right. Keep on working. if you would, I just handed you your NYP assessment number 2, which is about logic in the real world. I want you to read the first little top part here, and then I can talk to you about what I'm asking you to do. Okay, just read over it for me first. So as you read over this NYP assessment, what did you guys think? What am I asking you guys to do? Okay. I'm asking you to do. You know when I say direct TV commercial, do you know what I'm talking about? You never seen it? Okay. Maybe I can try to pull one up for you. Maybe they're on YouTube. Let me see if I can find. Hang on one quick second. Let me see. So, I know you can't hear it very well, but let's see if we can't get it to play. All right. Okay. You're going to basically write your own DirecTV commercial, okay? And what I mean by that is you're going to, I want this smart ink to go away, and it won't. You're going to write a story, okay, that has, how many sentences does it say it needs to have? 10. So you're going to write 10 sentences, and you're going to talk about a story. Obviously, I don't want you to end up in a roadside ditch. You're going to use something other than what you saw in that commercial. But you're going to write, it's called the law of syllogism, and we're going to learn about that law on Wednesday. But it is where you have, the next sentence starts with how the last sentence, the next sentence starts with how the previous one ended. So like, if you get an A, if you study, then you will get an A. The next one would start, if you get an A, then your mom will buy you an iPhone 6. That's probably not going to happen, but you know what I'm saying. So you start the next, every sentence starts with how the previous one ended. So you want to think about how you want to write your story. You can write it as a book, just like a traditional book, where you have to illustrate each sentence. You can do it on a PowerPoint on the computer, a little bit easier because you can illustrate using the pictures there. You could do a video if you want. Okay, video probably will get you a little extra credit because it takes a little bit more effort to create the video. And then you're going to have a final statement, which is the conclusion statement. So you probably can't do all of this until we get through on Wednesday, okay? But you can at least think about how you're going to start it, what method you're going to use. Are you going to do a PowerPoint? Are you going to do whatever? You can start thinking about the process, about how you're going to write your story. It has to kind of make sense. And this will be due next Wednesday for you guys, because Tuesday is a teacher work day. So you can write right on the top of this for your class, the due date is next Wednesday, which is November the 5th. So your guys are going to be due November 5th. The homework that you guys, I don't think anyone's finished all of this. So your homework is going to be to go ahead and finish the 2-2, which was the stapled part that I gave you. And I want you to do the odd problems on the biconditional sheet, okay? So let me write this up here on the board for your homework. So your homework is to finish all 3 pages of the 2-2 worksheets and to do the odd problems on the biconditional worksheet. Remember that your MYP project number 2 is due Wednesday, November 5th. So you want to be thinking about that as well.